What was once Ken Paxton's private life is now very much spilling out into the public after his wife announced their divorce to the world in a dramatic post on X that went viral in an instant. Now, Paxton is the Texas Attorney General, a Trump ally, and candidate for Senate. He's running in a Republican primary. His soon-to-be now ex-wife, Angela, is also a politician. She's a state senator in Texas. They have been a power couple for years. Now it is very much a power struggle over a lot of things. Ken Paxton paints the divorce that is pending now as the byproduct of our politics, chalking it up to the pressures of countless political attacks and public scrutiny. Angela Paxton hints at something different, explaining that she, quote, filed for divorce on biblical grounds, and that following, quote, recent discoveries, she does not believe that her marriage honors God. Our reporters are back. Nia, I'm going to start with you because there's so many things to unpack here, but let's just kind of table set for our viewers, Nia, on the fact that this is a couple who has stuck together through other political storms that Ken Paxton was involved with, including in an attempt to impeach him. She was very much by his side. Things are different now. Let's start there.
Well, listen, I mean, even if you look back at the impeachment, there were allegations during that impeachment about extramarital affairs, one in particular. And so she clearly either decided to stick by her husband after that, or maybe they weren't true. It's unclear. But this isn't new news about Ken Paxton. It is new news in the context of this race that's going to pit him against John Cornyn. Polls so far have shown that Ken Paxton, who is sort of the Trump of Texas, that he's in the lead, double digits according to some polls. And so what does this news do? On the one hand, he's trying to make himself even more a Trumpy-like figure, right? Saying, the slings and arrows are coming at me. The devil is busy in the way that the devil was busy against Donald Trump, the devil being the deep state, of course. And so that is kind of how he's trying to frame himself. I think it could work with a lot of MAGA. It could work with a lot of evangelicals even who will say, he without sin cast the first stone. But we'll see. I mean, I think the wild card here is, what does Donald Trump decide to do? Does he decide to back John Cornyn? I imagine if you're Thune, you've had very direct conversations with the president about this, because if you're John Thune, you want John Cornyn to stay in that seat.
Yeah, and that's really what this is about, Maeve. I'm going to come to you on that. I mean, obviously, there is drama. There is, a lot of layers. It's something that everybody in the political world is talking about. But it's not just that. It's because of how consequential this primary is on so many different levels. And as Nia said, it's Paxton who is challenging a sitting Republican senator, which in and of itself is a very big deal, and somebody who is an institution in Texas elected life. And right now, the latest poll before all of this, Ken Paxton was beating John Cornyn by a pretty significant amount. And then you look at Cornyn, and Nia suggesting that, would Donald Trump support John Cornyn? There's no historical love lost between these two, as much as Cornyn is trying to get in Donald Trump's favor right now. This is May of 2023. This is Cornyn. I think President Trump's time has passed him by. I don't think President Trump understands that when you run in a general election, you have to appeal to voters beyond your base.
So, I mean, I think that it's going to be fascinating to see what President Trump does here, because, of course, Cornyn is firmly backed by Republican leaders in the Senate.
He was one.
Yeah, he was one. And, I believe that he will be doing some travel with President Trump in Texas today. And, there have been instances in which J.D. Vance is a good example of this, where someone has criticized President Trump in the past. past and he gets over it and moves on. But clearly those loyalty issues are why the MAGA base in Texas has such a big issue with John Cornyn. And I think the timing of all of this obviously is very interesting. As you were pointing out this morning, I mean, to have this sort of explosion of personal allegations at a critical time in this primary race could give, you know, a lot of people second thoughts. And you are seeing sort of the GOP cavalry in Washington get behind Cornyn, and Cornyn has been drawing attention to some of this news that really could damage Paxton. But there's a lot of worry that if Paxton were to become the nominee, that this really could make it like a much more volatile race and give Democrats some inroads. So.
Yeah. And that's really the key here. One of the keys here, which is Phil Mattingly, what Democrats want, which is right now they want Paxton because they have the Texas Senate race or the governor's race has kind of been like a white whale for them since, you know, I don't know,
Forever,
since the 90s, since the 90s. And this is, you know, they're hoping that if Paxton is damaged, he stays in the race, he becomes the nominee, Phil, that would be beneficial to the Democrats. They're going to potentially have their own primary. I mean, we know Colin Allred is running. Beto O'Rourke has suggested that maybe he would jump in. Then you have the question of Julian Castro, State Rep James Tallarico. So those are all questions that are to be asked.
Yeah, and look, I think you make an important kind of caveat up front here, which is this is, I think, my like 6th or 7th cycle where Texas was going to turn blue, and it never gets really anywhere close with it. I think the closest was probably Beto O'Rourke against Ted Cruz, and that ended up not being significantly close in the grand scheme of how we generally watch these types of campaigns. There is no question when you talk to both Republicans and Democrats, if Democrats are going to have any opportunity whatsoever in terms of this race, they believe that Paxton is the only kind of vehicle for that opportunity, that Cornyn is not. You know, what I'm struck by about this, Dan, I'm sure all of us have heard from our Republican friends over the course of the last couple of days, where the response has been like, what possibly could have happened to make it worse than what it had been prior to now? And I'm not making light of marital issues, but which is a real interesting question because I'm sure the Cornyn team, the NRSC, and all those aligned individuals are trying to figure out what it was and will likely try and raise that in the weeks ahead. This is a campaign on the primary side that Cornyn has explicitly framed as being about character. And so does this help him? It's up to Trump.
First of all, I just want to correct one thing. It's Julian Castro's identical twin brother, Joaquin, who is considering running for Senate. But before we go, real quick, Nia, I've been thinking during this whole conversation about one fundamental question, which is, does this kind of dirty laundry in the public, even for evangelical voters, even in a Republican primary, does it matter anymore?
No, I absolutely don't think it matters. And I think if you're an evangelical voter, there are lots of retorts to this. You know, everyone is a sinner in the hands of God. And I think in many ways this could bolster Paxton among those hardcore MAGA folks and some evangelicals as well.